That's quick like.
I'm just in front of you. I'm kind of in the middle, but I'll block you. Because I'm so small. Statuesque.
The best part of it is I got 1 minute.
Really?
I just let you.
Thank you.
Our freshman year did. That's it.
Please turn off your phones or silence them. We're gonna start the meeting.
It's like a snake out.
Oh, where did my phone go? This one? I'm right here. Good morning. I'm almost awake. Thank you all for being here. Notice is hereby given of a regular meeting of the Galveston County Consolidated Drainage District on September 26th, 2023. At 8 a.m. at the district's office located at 1605 Whitaker Drive, Friendswood, Texas. Call the meeting to order. Rusty, do you have time to do this session? Please stand and after the invocation, do the pledge.
Lord Jesus Christ, thank you so much for this gathering of city officials, citizens, people who are involved in the city of Friendswood and our drainage district. Worship you daily. We pray for your guidance. We pray for your love. We pray for your understanding. We pray for you to watch out for all of us as we do this meeting. In your name we pray.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Citizens' comments. Members of the public are invited to give comments at this time lasting no longer than 3 minutes. Comments may be general in nature or may address a specific agenda item and should be directed at the entire board. Anybody that'd like to address us?
Can I say something?
Mr. Johnson.
As I'm sure everybody's aware, the federal government is probably headed for shutdown. There's a huge fight going on about the budget. And what all that says is this was really the wrong time for anybody to be asking for $30 billion for the coastal spine. $30 billion for all the tunnels that Harris County Flood Control has put up there. And we need to get together with the League City official, our Friendswood officials, everybody in the lower Clear Creek watershed and start talking about some very targeted projects which we can propose in the next budget cycle out in year 25 to do something that to get the federal government involved in helping us. So I'm not really sure how to push that forward with getting those things together, but under the Friendswood, League City, and the Drainage District getting together and talking about that is probably a good place to start. So that's what I'd be encouraging. Thank you.
Ms. Rogers.
I just wanted to stand up and say, you know, I know today you're thinking about setting the tax rate. And again, with the government shutdown and with all these problems with spending, I would hate to think that you're taking the choice of last resort, and that is to raise taxes. You know, I would consider zero-based budgeting. I would consider prioritizing projects. I would also consider the homestead exemption. But again, I really feel like any increase in taxes at this time is really the choice of last resort, and it means you're out of options. And I hope you're really not out of options. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to address us? Okay. Discussion and action items. Galveston County Consolidated Drainage District Board of Directors call a public hearing regarding the 2023-2024 tax rate of 0.11862. I hear motion. I'll make the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? This, since I made the motion, I'll comment. This tax rate that we're setting is $54,000 less revenue than last year's tax rate.
I have a comment, Kevin.
You got the floor.
I wrote a letter when I was gone. Scott read it aloud, I believe, in the special meeting. And I'm going to propose a tax rate of 0.1176 for a zero increase as promised. Homestead failed. I want to hold the tax. I want to cut, but minimally, I want to hold it in at zero.
So I made the motion and we got a second. That's discussion. Is there any further discussion on the tax rate? Being none, all those in favor of the motion that I made? What?
Excuse me. Close the public hearing and then we'll vote on the tax.
Oh, at the next time, I'm sorry.
Dave, or the motion to establish the tax rate.
There you go. Okay, so any other discussion on the public hearing? I'm sorry. So I'll close that portion of the public hearing and we'll move on to 6A. Review and take action on the Galveston County Consolidated Drainage District's 2023-2024 budget. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve the
Second.
Second.
Got a motion, a second discussion. You made the motion, you made the second.
This budget calls for expending more money than we're going to take in through our tax levy. But the majority of it is projects, and as the cash flow determines, as the weather determines, we can cut back a project, delay a project to watch our cash flow. Currently, we have enough surplus funds to cover that deficit in this budget. So I'm comfortable realizing that as we go forward, the projects will come on, some that we don't know about, some will fall off. As long as we watch our cash flow, we'll be all right.
Further that, it's a working budget. In other words, it's weather dependent, it's pandemic dependent. Some things happen, you can kick off others. We can shuffle things around and we have enough funds to cover the actual inflow we have from taxes and our reserves to cover our projects and determine what we need to do and to pick up things and to drop things like Jim said. So it's a good way to go about things for this year.
You had the second on it. Teresa, do you have any comments?
I don't have anything to add. I think that Jim and Rusty summed it up very well.
Lonnie?
I agree.
Mother Nature rules a lot of how we spend our money. So I'm comfortable. We spent some time on this budget.
It's not very often when you have dry period from May all the way until September. It's been
Like 75 days.
it's like that, or it looks like dirt to move. Yeah,
Progress.
that's right.
All right, so I got a motion, second. All those in favor of the 2023-2024 budget, aye.
Aye.
Show it to be unanimous. B, motion to establish 2023-2024 tax rate of 0.11862, resolution 2023-0123 to 2024 tax rate. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll make the second. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Item C, review and take action on Friendswood Trails, updated drainage impact analysis, Burton Johnson Engineering. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion, second discussion. Scott, you have the floor.
This is their update to include the Atlas 14 rainfall data and also kind of manipulate for the new developers layout. City has reviewed it and WGA has reviewed it for the technical portion of the model and found that's consistent with the district's design criteria manual.
Scott, what I saw was they, correct me if I'm wrong, they moved some of the lots.
Yes,
Did it require them to increase their capacity? Is that?
that Since the original range impact analysis was approved, Friendswood, the floodplain administrator, adopted floodplain mitigation requirements up to the 500-year water surface elevation, right at the point, the shaded X. So there's some things that they need to address in this before they can get going. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
It was approved by the city.
We have a letter of no objection. The city won't approve it till the district approves it.
Got it,
That's the
got it,
process,
got it.
right?
But you got a logo.
Yes. Yes,
Atlas 14,
it is. Yes.
adjacent properties are Atlas 14 or not?
They're not, but the impacts to those properties are looked at as part of the drainage impact analysis. When they look at the water source elevations and things like that.
That's what I wanted to hear.
That's a good question.
Got any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, show it be unanimous. D, review and take action on Thomas Manor Assisted Living Final Drainage Plan, Everest Design Group. Do I hear a motion? You make a motion?
Yes.
I'll make the second. Scott?
So we approved the revised preliminary a couple of weeks ago, a couple of meetings ago, I'm sorry. They had obtained approval back in 2022 for it. They timed out. The preliminary plans are approved for 6 months, right? They could request an extension. They failed to do so. They had to go back through the preliminary process. So this is just the final plans of that. The detention volume is provided. This is a commercial subdivision, right? You can see it down here up San Joaquin, I believe, in 528. So everything's consistent with their approved plans. We received a letter of no objection from the city. I believe it meets the district's criteria.
I had a few questions on the flow where they added new stuff.
Yes, sir.
And the flow of the old stuff,
Sure.
but you answered my question previously.
Where was the change, Scott?
Well, there was no change. This is the new development. I think what it is, so you have assisted living and then you have senior development. This is another project that came in that we've recently approved, and they're adding on here and tying on to existing. This is a totally from scratch development. So you can see the overflow channel for the streets are there. There is an existing outfall pipe that they're tying into here, but everything else on site, I believe.
Well, yeah, my question.
Yes, sir.
In the volume, you can handle the volume with the existing.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Rusty, did I answer your question?
Good. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, show it to be unanimous. Review and take action on 518 Massa Plaza Phase 2 preliminary drainage plan, Daniel Scott Engineering LLC, and reviewed by WGA Consulting Engineers. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
About a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion, a second. Scott?
Okay, so this is the Masasuchi building right here. It's existing right here by Hunter's Lane and 518. This is the undeveloped portion. The board approved a plan for preliminary about a year ago. The zone change that they were requesting failed. They were proposing to do, I think, 3 or 4 townhomes. They thought that would fit better with the residents that are in the back. The residents came out and it didn't pass council for the zone change. So now they're proposing to go with what is currently a zone for, and it's 2 additional, I believe, retail buildings. The detention is provided in Hunters Creek. That was approved, when the first phase of development was developed. This was considered as impervious already. We just have to update it, showing how we're draining it. So
Is the city taking this up? We all waiting for us on this one also.
they're submitting, the architect and contractor submitting, Marcus is the architect on it. He was supposed to be submitting last week. So this is preliminary. So we won't be able to consider the final plan until the city offers a low note. Again, we'll get comments from them, address them concurrently, and then move forward.
This is the one that we tabled because the city the night before had rejected the zone change. It was before y'all were here, Teresa and I, but we tabled it. You remember that then we tabled this one. So now they're going with the current commercial zone and proposing this. So,
Yes, sir.
and it meets the existing criteria of the pond from the one of Hunters Creek originally. It has a capacity.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
What I want to point out here is what's interesting is 3 or 4 townhomes, maybe 12 cars. If you do 3 cars per townhome, you've already got a traffic problem there. This is going to be a little bit more traffic problem than 3 or 4 condos.
Sounds like a city issue.
It's just an opportunity for solution.
We've heard a couple at the city.
I got nothing. I'm good on the preliminary. All those in favor? All those opposed? Item F. Item F, discuss and consider approval of the request to use a combination gravity pump detention pond for 4.62 acres development located at FM 2351 Daniel Scott Engineering LLC. How's that work?
Motion to discuss.
Second.
How does that work?
well, they did ask us to, a proposal for us to be an engineer.
God, that's
So
right.
WGA will review the plans.
Thank you for clarifying that. That's right, I forgot. But the only problem I got is we don't do gravity pumps, right? Let's just call the elephant in the room out.
Well, the manual,
Go
the
ahead.
last revision of it, the board realized that there was probably going to be situations where this arose. So instead of saying no, it says that it's on a case basis. So you have to request to use it. So we're not necessarily asking for a variance. We're requesting to use a combination gravity and pump system. And to be clear, if the pumps fail, there's still a gravity outfall. And so the pond will drain. It shouldn't impact adjacent properties. This is just for the lower portion of the pond that's below the gravity outfall.
So the reason for the gravity pump is if it fails, it doesn't matter. So why do they have to have it? That's what I'm setting you up for.
Yeah. So we're getting the volume below what's on grade. It would naturally just fall.
Is it to drain up the pond?
Yes, sir.
So I have something to float by the board. So Gus and I were talking about this yesterday because I was like you, Kevin, I was wanting to know the ins and outs of why and what Jim said. So if we think about possibly there's acreage in Friendswood that's going to require this type of system to develop going forward. So if we decide to discuss and maybe allow this or maybe allow it later on, I think we should have the developer put up a bond for the cost of the system. And have Scott write that up. So the system is required to be inspected by the developer. So Joseph will be out there tracking all these down in the future. And the bond's up in case something happens, it's paid for by the developer through that bond. So it prevents us being on the hook for chasing people down, cost, inspections, and it's a self-reporting mechanism with a bond up to cover us as a district. If we decide we want to allow them in the first place, but there are parcels of land where this will have to be done, in my estimation, to allow usage of the land.
Not the only piece of property this could be an issue with.
Correct.
However, okay, we're doing some work over there behind Kroger. There's a pond there. We don't know. We can't get a hold of the owner. All right, so first hurdle before we even get to this decision is, how do you calculate the bond amount? For what? What's the duration of the bond amount? It might just be better to take a deposit rather than have an ongoing bond for traceability. It'll be here if it ever happens. You could label it for that issue, but it's going to be a cost on the developer. Okay, that's 1 and 2. What's the backup system for the pond? Just to let it ordinary flow, gravity?
Yes, sir.
You-
So, I mean,
get where I'm going
the
with
pumps
this,
are going
right?
to shut off whenever the
Correct.
water surface in the pond comes up to the gravity outfall anyhow. If you're not going to discharge via pump and gravity,
Is there a backup system on the pump?
there'll be it's going to be a duplex system. So it'll be 2 pumps.
Okay.
So if one pump fails, you'll still have the other one. To
And the
run.
location of the motor that runs it or the electrical thing will be out of the floodway, out of
The pumps are typically submerged.
they are.
The control panel is above. Yes.
Our sources too.
I have a question.
See where I'm going with this?
The power sources submerged also.
So where does it tie into electricity? That needs to be up
Yeah, the
Doesn't
control
get
panel
flooded
where it
during the
comes.
pump off when you need it. That's where I'm going with it.
Well, it'll be flooded. It'll flood at some point. If we
Well, is it on a pole?
Yes.
But
Then get it up 8 feet
It's
or
it's
something.
no different than the cities like lift stations for sanitary, right? Their control panels up, then it depends on where you're at. If you're in a floodplain, then you get it above the, the
But-
500 year.
the
That's
point
that's where I'm going with it.
once the water comes up, it cuts off anyway. And it's just gravity flowing, so
Yes.
it won't be working anyways. It could.
Yeah.
It comes up, I'm not saying we're for or against it, but once it comes up, the water comes up,
Yeah.
pump shuts off like a float valve and it rolls.
Do we
What
have
I'm
any,
worried about is when it comes back down and not coming back on.
Sure, well, then we fix it. We got the money one way or the other. Sorry.
Go ahead, Teresa.
do we have any ponds that we currently maintain that have this type of arrangement, or would this be a first for us?
We don't have none that we maintain right now, but behind where it's 24 Hour Fitness there's a pump system there, and that's the only one that I'm aware of.
But we don't maintain that pond.
Isn't there one on the underground storage?
Oh, at the bank.
No, sir.
No, that's gravity.
All of it's gravity when it's underground?
Yeah.
They built up.
Okay, that's why you step up going in, okay. All right, well,
How many feet are we talking about the pump being wired for?
About 7-8 feet of additional storage. So if you look at this site, a gravity basis with a 1.5 foot outfall depth, you got a foot of freeboard, right? So you have a half a foot of effective depth. The pond is going to be, twice the size of the piece of property because the tension rate with the Atlas 14 rainfall data, you're looking at about a 1.1 acre foot per acre for commercial rate. So 4.2 acres, I believe. So you're looking at almost 5 acre feet of storage, somewhere in there, 4.5, 5. So
It's not developable if we don't approve this.
correct.
well, that's not the right statement.
Yeah, that's debatable.
Okay, you can go up with the piece of property. But what you're gonna have here is, you're gonna have areas around town that it's so shallow to get to someplace to make the property feasibly developable, that you would have to do it on stone.
This gives them some.
Can I make a comment? Scott? Why don't we draft up something? I would encourage this guy to move forward, okay? But we need to draft up something like attachment 4 kind of concept when this happens. And it takes them out and says, here's your requirements. You gotta give us $50,000 to maintain this. I'm not into this as a revenue stream or anything. I'm into it for the people later. Number one. Number two, the logistics of it, the backup pump, location of the power. Put that in there. And then the special circumstances that this would apply. And then last, that we can either approve it or deny it. Now, what I'm trying to do here is give them the latitude to do this. However, we still can say we don't want to do it. I'm not trying to shoot people out of the water, but I'm not trying to incur any responsibility for somebody's project site. Does that sound fair? Joseph?
Is there a benchmark or standard that you could use to base what our requirements would look like?
TxDOT, we're going to have a permit from TxDOT, and they have criteria. Will require us to have controls, floats in the ditch or some way of monitoring that to turn the pump off so that it's not running when I think it's quarter to 50% full, things like that. And it'll be turned off during a rain event, so the pumps won't be running no matter what during a rain event. Pump will fill up, it'll gravity feed if we have enough rain, right? So those
Next, I won't let them drain in there.
pump.
Well, TxDOT won't let them use the capacity in the ditch, right? Is that what the rule is?
No, we were talking about this. TxDOT's not a perfect matchup, Teresa, for what you're talking about, but yes, there is some, we want to reinvent the wheel on some of the criteria of what they use, that we can write or conform for what we want in our district. And to talk to Jim's point is, Jim, I agree with you. Not all land should be developed anyway. And I don't believe in improving everything, whether it meets the criteria that we want to write or not. I think we should have the ability to do what we want. However, I do believe we should come up with language that protects us financially, for sure, comes up with some standards. We can use TxDOT where applicable and make it make sense.
Here's the other thing that we need to look at. Redevelopment is coming to Friendswood. Okay. You see where I'm going with this now? When somebody wants to redevelop a piece of property that's never had a drainage study done, or because it was built in the 70s, we know where those pieces of property are and they're pretty low. So how are they going to accommodate this? I think it might be something like this that makes it feasible for 4 or 5 houses to be redeveloped.
And while we're working on the criteria manual as well, Scott and I was talking, we're gonna add some more language and guidelines for this, and also with siphons. But since we're going over our criteria manual.
Okay.
The real issue is how they improve the reliability of the pump.
That's
And normally 2 pumps is a good start.
Which was there, which is in there.
Yes, sir.
what do the pumps cost? Does anybody here know?
Yeah, I mean, the pumps themselves,
50?
yeah, you're $30,000 to $60,000 range.
Okay, so worst case scenario, we ought to be able to replace the pumps, or at least one pump with our deposit. I'm just giving you some stuff to move towards.
Sure.
So we don't incur an expense.
Yeah.
For your parameters.
And another question is, why would we be interested in maintaining it versus inspecting?
I'm not saying I don't want to
We're
maintain.
not.
We're
We're
not.
not gonna maintain it.
If you can't find the guy that put the pumps in, paid for the pumps or whatever, we've got a deposit, we can replace the pump. We'll inspect it if we feel necessary.
Why doesn't that fall to the current landowner?
Yes, that's how I would like to see it, is that they're responsible for annual inspections and then file a report back to Scott or I or both of us, where we got proof that they did an inspection.
You see what I did? I did the devil's advocate, the worst. I mean, since it's vacant or whatever, foreclosure, heaven forbid. Now it's not working. What do? Well, we already got the money to fix it.
Right.
Okay. That's where I'm going. All things good, that's good. All things bad,
Write it and review the language. Just table it, write and review the language.
well, I don't think it's a table or anything. It's,
We just,
the guy was,
motion was to
okay,
discuss.
motion was to discuss. And have I given you enough parameters to start? I'm not saying finish it, but I give you 3 points. If something else comes out of it that you'd like to add.
So, yes, I could discuss it after the meeting. Just to be clear too, the city, if we were approved to use this for this project, we'd have to do a design modification form with the city for them to allow us to use it as well. Before we went that route, we wanted to come to the district to get there.
Can I ask your opinion on it?
I wanted to add one more thing to the resiliency. The city would require for the duplex pump to be on a backup generator. So that's something to keep in mind. Just something that we have recently. We do have the roadmap for it. Recently, Red Ball Oxygen off of Beamer Road. They built this type of system. And they were in the same type of situation. If it was going to be all gravity, there was no way that project was going to happen. So
There, Harris County flood control allows pump detention, and you know how conservative they are as far as their stuff goes. They realize that there's situations where nobody wants to use a pump gravity system. They want to do gravity, right? But there's this situation where you have to do it, unfortunately.
I get what you're saying.
Sure.
And we just had a meeting with them yesterday and they said they wanted to help us.
Yeah.
But then you get all these other rules. They don't really want to help us.
Yeah.
We really want to help you.
Yeah.
Brace yourself. So, okay.
So
I think the good point about this concept is that the pump is not supposed to run in a flood condition.
Yes. But when it comes down, it needs to.
yeah, it'll drain the.
But when it comes down, we got a long time to get it empty.
Got enough direction?
Yeah, so y'all were just discussing, the action item is to consider for approval.
Discuss and consider approval to the request to use a combination gravity. What I heard, you guys can disagree with me or not, we discussed it. We are looking into it and maybe this applicant can help us identify the hurdles,
Sure.
but also resolve our problem with it. So is that enough direction to move forward?
Yes.
Good.
Just make sure.
Everybody good with what I said?
I just want to cover the district
Yes.
and cover Joseph.
Can I try to summarize?
Yes.
We're after reliability. We're after no cost or liability to the district.
Yes.
I do have one question.
Lonnie, go
Talking
ahead.
about backup generator, I'm thinking also, my background, we always have backup to backup. Is there anything in the plan, could be put in the plan to periodically exercise that backup pump?
That's part of the inspection
That's part of the
process.
inspection.
Yes.
Yes.
So there's,
When you need it as a backup, if it's not gonna work, it's like sometimes you turn a generator on at home and it's not gonna work. That's why they exercise.
I know on a lot of them, the new ones now, they actually come on ever so often, run for a little bit.
Yeah.
yeah, one week, I know mine does. It sends me a note that it's exercising and since that shut off too.
All right, we're good. Hey, I think that was good conversation. I understand the intent.
And we're not opposed to it.
We're not opposed to working through it.
Sure.
I'd like to see the numbers.
Sure. Yes.
All right, is there anything on the consent agenda anybody would like to remove for item 7 or change? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
I need some motion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Operations Manager Joseph?
That little rain. There you go. I know the other, I guess last week or whatever, we got about 3 inches of rain here. And so we got enough moisture in the ground to do a lot of the seeding up on Mary's Creek. So hopefully before too long, we're gonna start germinating. We started on the second detention pond off of Castlewood. Can you pull the picture up or not? Yes, we kind of see it. And it's moving along well, and they're starting to sit in forms and stuff at Dunbar for the slope paving. They're starting to do that now there as we speak. And also on detention pond number 1, we got with Scott yesterday. They're going to restake our pilot channels and the outside tops of our overflow channel. And they'll start forming that up for concrete as well.
That's 2 queens there. That's
Yeah,
Mary-
2
behind
queens.
Mary Queen.
So we're digging right now.
Yes.
This is Thursday last week.
Yeah, they're digging yesterday and they're digging today.
Yeah, because I think we had a 9 o'clock start for the pit today to open, so, because they got more rain over there.
I don't even know whether it's gonna open. The traveling in and out. How many acre feet are you gonna get out of that pond 3 estimated?
On 3301, guess what? I had to look back at the plans, Kevin. I apologize, I don't have that.
Wrong.
Or the study that WGA did.
What's the
Approximately?
I think between all 3 of them.
all 3 of them? What's all 3?
Roughly 20, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's 20 to 30 or something.
Yeah, between all 3 of them, about 20 to 25 acres.
The feature in this is when the creek comes out of its bank, it'll go into those.
Right.
So it's kind of inline detention.
And,
We talked about this a long time ago.
that's detention pond 1,
Yeah.
at 301 Castlewood. And that's the one that they're starting to form up to pour the pilot channels and the overflow. Nice.
And that's one thing to consider is during normal rain events, these ponds won't get much water in, right, until the creek comes up. So, you know, I'm sure you're gonna get a lot of questions, you know, until we have a higher event and they fill up. You know, during a normal rain event, the creek might come up a couple feet and not really have water in the detention pond there when it catches. So
What are we gonna do to keep skateboarders out of there? People getting hurt?
just the bottom and then the overflow. is-
Dirt on the bottom or what?
Yeah, the bottom's gonna be dirt.
Good to know.
But it-
They won't want to be there.
Hmm.
Okay, and we probably have signage up.
Yes, we'll
Thank you.
put our signs up. And then, at the Baptist Church on Mary's Creek, they're continuing to work there. They, the main drain that came off of 518 that tied in right there before you got to 212 East Heritage.
Kroger from the Methodist Church.
No, this is at the.
Okay, over the other
So you
side.
can see the pipe. But, we got that in, dug it out and, hit a sand pocket, of course. And
Right there.
so we dug that sand pocket out and we got the pipe installed, encased in 3-sack stabilized sand. And so that big gully's gone now. And this is,
Yeah, same.
no, this is, and that's over there by Kitlin's office. It's the Baptist church right there.
Yeah.
But that was a huge improvement right there by getting the Purple House and extending all of that into inline detention.
Hold it right there, Scott.
And right there is what we call the Kroger ditch. And if you look further up, there you see 2 box culverts coming under 518.
Mhm.
I mean, 2351. We're gonna take those and kind of leave, those are gonna stay there, but we're gonna try to straighten that channel out. Where that water is not coming from underneath
Turning 90 degrees.
and turning 90 degrees. It's like when it's raining and if you're over there, it's just like a water chute going through there. And back in 2010, 2011, we came in and you can see all the concrete riprap and we were putting huge slabs in there. And when it rained, it would just roll them down. So that's gonna help that a whole lot.
Have a lot of.
And then-
pavement on that ditch once you straighten it out.
Right. And then where you see the green grass, back in 2010, we started a project there and to do inline detention. And there's a piece of that we didn't get to do because back then we didn't have the money to carry on. So we're gonna extend that to about 30 feet from the road's edge. And that'll all be inline detention as well.
That tree will be gone. That's how far back. we'll go.
Yes,
And then we're going another 40 feet towards the Purple House.
right. And on the other side where you see all the
That came out
improvements,
nice.
can you stop it there?
That came out really nice.
That is, all that bank has failed, so we came in and rebuilt all that bank. The property owners at the, what is that, a vet place? He donated a piece of granted us an easement to widen the current easement to allow us to shelf back a piece of land that was, what it's doing, water is coming through, hitting the bank and making a 90-degree turn. So what we were able to do is get that and shelve that back to relieve the pressure on the south side. And you can go ahead and see if it's gonna catch what I want to. Right there, right there. And then if you see up to the north where the pipe is, or it's south, yeah. All of that, we're gonna slope pave all of that corner right there, that hard corner. But you can see where where we shelved that other area where it relieving some of the pressure off that south side.
Those trees coming out right there, Joe.
No, those will stay.
So you came down.
Yeah, that's where we shelved it back.
Purple House,
Top of the bank will be.
No, the Purple House is back up to 23.
I wish we could show y'all the before pictures of some of these banks and what they look like, especially going in further down the creek. I mean, it's a big difference.
I got some simple pictures of it. On it. But if I want y'all to notice something too, through this drone footage. You look at all the dry trees. And folks, when we do get rain and we get some winds, we're gonna have a lot of trees down. So and there's a lot out there. And that's behind Kroger's. And like I said, last Thursday, they got drill seeded, so. And that was Kroger's detention pond right there.
a lot of buck cuts in there. Huh?
Yeah.
And those
We got,
pouch houses were
you
completely.
gonna carry this over to our website, please?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you.
And then as far as that, the mowing crew, they've been hit and miss here and there. Mowing's kind of been slow, but there's a few areas and general contractors, they've been, working on some of our right of ways, cleaning them up for us.
Yeah, especially show that area, what it looked like on the website before and what it looks like even now, but what it's really gonna look like. It's
I
a
think we have it.
drastic,
Yeah, well, I think we
big
have,
difference.
we'll let them up.
This is 8-4.
Yeah, look, there it is. You can see it right there.
Yeah,
Look at all those trees up there.
no, it's back
Yeah, up there.
up here. Yeah.
Yeah, look to the left. Well, it was.
It'll get up there.
Who's the drone pilot? Who is that guy?
I think it was my 8-year-old.
Was it? He's good. He's probably better.
Probably would be. He was down there kicking rocks actually. This is definitely it right here. This is
Yeah,
the
that's,
pond that we're looking at.
That's the Kroger pond.
And we'll get up. I think I'll look it up and get a good aerial view.
Look at that, Craig. How'd that for this inch pond? Pretty effective, huh? Look at trees,
Very effective.
a couple deer living in there.
Yeah, there you go.
But like I said earlier, we had the weather to do a lot of projects and we got a lot done this year.
And here comes the rain.
We kind of need some for the grass to grow.
Yeah, I didn't want to seed it until we got some moisture and after we got roughly around 3 inches here, then we went on to seed it what we could.
Very nice, Joseph. Very nice.
Any questions for Joseph? Any more?
Do you want to show any of the barge?
Okay, this is Dunbar.
Oh, yes,
the running before the meeting.
This is Dunbar where they're getting it ready to, do the slow paving there.
It's a good shot for everybody, but the slope paving versus what it looked like before.
Mm-hmm.
As you go up. And that's what we're fighting all through the district and
We're matching right there, right? But when you came back towards the creek, towards the bridge, it blown out the bank and it was.
Creeping towards that house.
Yeah, so we've actually rebuilt that slope right there, right? It was all gone. You can see on the left side, to the left of the pipe right now, it's kind of blown down on that side. We can only do so much. The Corps only lets you do so much in jurisdictional waters per linear foot. So we can only do this in phases.
Hey, Scott, we discussed this. I know Kevin and I were asking about this last night. What are we gonna do eventually with that riffraff and stuff below there? What was decided? It's on hold for what reason?
Yeah, we could, you can only do so much at a time in jurisdictional waters per foot. And so we were limited. The main thing was to do this and put the toe wall in, get that bank stabilized. We'll have to address this at a later time. You can see this left side right here, Rusty. You can see the slope coming out from underneath the bridge and it's blown out here as well.
That could start right there. We haven't watched that just, that could go right in that creek, right, easily.
Yeah.
Okay, so the plan is later on, we're gonna address
Yeah, and isn't this bridge on the city's
3 years.
27.
27 or something like that to do with place? Yeah, so we probably need to take that consideration as well.
If you look at the criteria, wouldn't that be an emergency situation, which wouldn't go into the calculation of how much improvements you do? Because that's fixing emergency. You see the word I'm using?
Sure. Yes, sir.
Since we're over there?
Yeah.
We ought to pull it back.
We can get with Steve McElgain.
That's not.
Thank you.
Are we gonna do anything with the pipe directional entry to the creek?
No, sir, that's coming through the Walton Pond development. If we stabilize that bank, then we can, maybe look at trimming that pipe and put slope paving around it.
It's not gonna undermine your slope paving
Yes,
on the opposite side.
One thing we got, because that's a tin horn, so we got to look at that too and make sure that, because a lot of them, the belly of them are done rusted
yeah,
out.
it's just dirt.
So what happens if that is the case, and we take it back to wherever there's good pipe, and we reattach, and then
Concrete?
HDP,
Okay.
and then we'll extend it through there, and then it'd be within the slope pavement.
I've got a collar, that'll adapt from that CMP to the HDP, like I said, having to stick a manhole in.
Big as that pipe.
Jim, to answer your question, we have a toe wall at the bottom of that slope paving. It's 3 or 4 foot in the ground at least, a minimum, so it shouldn't undermine it, right? So,
Jim, anytime we get on the creeks and we're doing projects, and we find a lot of pipes that are covered up that nobody even knew they were there. And what they were doing is they were just deadheading into the bank. And we always come in and we put them pointing downstream. And we've noticed on a lot of the neighborhoods that we did this, that they were having street flooding and stuff. After we found these pipes and replaced them, well, that was gone. And so it made a huge difference in a lot of the areas.
Tell DC, nice work. I mean,
you do a good job.
Yeah,
East Heritage, Kroger, this. And I know it's superior supervision by Daryl and you. So I thought I'd point that out too.
Thank you.
yeah, I'd echo that. That's workmanship, something else. That driven a dozer and I can't make it.
Well, no kidding.
This project right here on Dunbar,
Yeah.
because it was straight up and down,
Oh, yeah.
and it was, because you had to get a dozer off in there first to cut a road.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're very limited with space, and a couple of times I thought Jerry was going in the bottom of the creek. And all you can do is, you start getting loads of dirt and just start cutting and pushing and pushing and pushing until you get something. And then, everybody don't realize it, but then from start to finish, they had to work this backwards. Normally we start down here and we start working back towards the bridge. Well, because of this, you got dump trucks then backing down that little 10 or 12 foot flat road all day long, and you're working it backwards. So,
If one side failed, you're in the creek.
well, and that's why you had to bring in good clay to build a solid road where it wouldn't just start caving off.
Thank God we had dry weather.
Yeah, if we had got any kind of wet, it would have prolonged this big
Kind of
thing.
less slippery.
I mean, I drive through this area almost daily and it's been great to see the steady progress being made on this project. Good job.
Somebody put some real good crossings in there too. I don't know who that was. Pretty ones.
I think one question about the barge. Where is it? And how far have we gone on the downstream side of 528?
We haven't yet. The poor guys, they bought these barges and they've been sitting for 5 or 6 years. And so they've had a lot of mechanical problems with them. Last week, I think they worked one day and they were making repairs. When they are not working with the barge, actually cutting trees and stuff, we're not paying them. And there's steel lines that run from the back of the barge to the front gravel road. And it's, yeah, for the hydraulics, and that line was busted. So they had to first figure out how they could get that line out of there in one piece. And then had to go find somewhere to have one made, and they got it back in. Once they got it back in, they had some belts bust. Then the alternator, and they've just been having a lot of trouble with it, but now they're back up and running.
Okay, but from the South District border on the north side of the creek, how close are they to 528 bridge?
They're on the 520. Well, right now, they started at 528 and they worked their way, hold on. No, they started where they're almost down to the district's line downstream. They're fixing to come back. And on our side, it should go pretty quick for them. And so I say within another 2 to 3 weeks without, 2 or 3 weeks without no breakdowns, they should be there. And then start working 528 back upstream.
Finished with the north side of the creek.
Yes.
It makes a world of difference.
They've been doing both sides though, when
They work on one side and then once they get through so far on
Staging.
one side, then they jump over to the other side.
and I pointed out to Daryl, there's a staging place there at Deepwood.
Mhm.
He wasn't sure he could use it, and I said he can. You know where that boat ramp is?
And
Save some time there.
then I wonder if it's beneficial to do this work where we have the shelving projects on the opposite side.
Yeah.
For example, Whitaker Detention Base. What do you gain by cleaning that bank up on the north side?
Yeah, we can look at it. A lot of that is residential where their houses are right there, so,
Ain't gonna get much benefit.
yeah.
Just the stuff in the creek impeding the flow is all out of address over there.
And
Like it's shot over there.
yes. Believe me, when we were doing the Whitaker, had people standing across the creek with guns.
Really?
Yes.
And they were doing these weird hand signs like
They-
number one.
That's unfortunate.
They were not happy with it at all. And, oh yeah, it wasn't nice. And you know, people use that area for walking and all that. And we had one lady that we had to call the cops on.
Are they people that live there? Across the creek, across the creek.
And then you had others that come through there and was happy as all could be, you know, so you just got, you know, certain few. Once they understand the project, hopefully they'll see the benefits.
I think this is the biggest bang for the bucks we got going right now.
This is a good deal. This is long overdue. This is good. By how long he's been going, I know he's had a lot of breakdowns, but still, it's a lot of tedious work, as you can see. It doesn't go real fast.
I know we got 2 of our guys down at the staging area or the laydown. And they run constant all day long.
Are they able to get replacement parts pretty quickly when they need them, or do they have to have things fabricated?
They bought 2 barges.
One's for parts.
And what they're doing is they robbing one to keep this one going. But now they're finding places to get the parts and they're ordering extra parts and stuff, keeping them on hand. But you know, and it's not me, but if it would have been me and I've known that piece of equipment sit that long, I would have went through and replaced all the hoses and everything right off the bat, but each is to its own, so.
Money.
Thank you, Joseph.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I could watch that all day long.
I'm impressed. Good?
Good.
You guys good with them being good? Kathy?
If you'll notice on the registered report that I'm gonna start
Yes.
putting the totals and the totals expenditures and be on all the reports from now on. Per Jim Gibson's side.
Basically cash flow.
Yes. And from now on our website, you can watch the meetings and they'll be stored. At the end of the year, they'll all be stored in its own little file where you can go back in the years, and we're able to have minimal expense with this.
Is there video too?
You're being
We're
video.
recording the teams and then
Smile, you're on candid camera.
Excellent.
Would you
And it's good
please,
quality video.
Yes.
would you please Photoshop me?
It's not gonna work.
Thank you, Bob.
And I just want you to know, I'm a very lucky girl to work for such a good one. Thank you.
Lucky to have you.
We are.
English tape on the camera.
Scott, have you talked enough?
I have. I can talk some more if you'd like. So not much going on the plan review side right now. I know Friends of the Trail, since there's update to their DIA is approved, they're ready to get going on their final set of plans. They've had several sets come through and be approved preliminary. And they were trying to get those plans on this agenda, but told them that they'd have to ask for a variance, and they're actually out of time by then when they asked that. This past the deadline for resubmittal. So anyhow, that'll be coming shortly. I've had quite a few attachment forwards, and then again, just going through the design criteria manual. I know I've got Ms. Teresa's comments. She had a lot of good comments, and working through those. The cities, they're comparing it. They're going through a design modification update. We're just reviewing it. We're trying to make sure we're on the same page. So the biggest thing that we're waiting on is WGA is supposed to get with us in October. By the
ECM?
yes, sir. To make sure that our technically, we're using the right programs and methodology for the industry standard now. All our drainage impact analysis that are it's Ms. Teresa had said that on some of the programs that we had in there, they're outdated, which was 3 years old too. So definitely good comments. So we should have all that addressed soon.
If I had to set a date for what our estimated completion would be, what would it be?
I think we said the end of December last meeting.
My Christmas gift.
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions for Scott? Council liaison, are you acting? Are you officially our liaison, or you just
I'm substituting today, and I do have a report.
bring it on?
So, first of all, thank you for your volunteer service. I've lived here over 40 years, and I have seen a lot of improvement in drainage, and so thank you very much for all that work. I remember holding kids after school when we had heavy rains at Westwood, if they lived in Sun Meadow, because they could not get home just from heavy rains. And so seeing a lot of improvement over the years, and thank you. Robert would like to have been here today, but he called me last night. And have you heard about Dolly, his precious, precious dog, Dolly? He shows pictures like a grandfather would of his grandchildren. But anyway, Dolly ate a loaner hearing aid. I'm glad this is being recorded. A loaner hearing aid. And I said, Robert, that sounds like an excuse kids used at school. The dog ate my homework. Dolly is a dog, by the way. And it's a very expensive thing. It's $4,700. So I could help him on what he could do to try to retrieve that.
Well, he is a politician,
Yeah, but anyway, so this morning, I'm not sure what he's doing, if he's with Dolly or if he's with the audiologist to try to explain the dog and the loaner hearing aid. So good wishes for Robert today and success for him. So he's not out $4,700 on the hearing aid, but he would have been here at all. So you give him a kind of tease him about that.
So if he comes in walking with the dog on his shoulder. So no, he wasn't.
What did it say? What they say?
Safety in Jurassic Park where he's digging through the stuff. I think he might be done with
I
it.
think I was kind of going in that direction. But I don't think you have any
Thank you for
interest.
your, thank you very much. City Engineer Friendswood, first of all, thank you for that meeting yesterday. League City, us and you. I don't know whether that's ever happened, but I'd like to encourage you. So you have the floor, sir.
Thank you to Matt also for being there as well. So don't really have much to add. Just wanted to add on to what you're saying right now. In addition to meeting with League City, I felt like we had a pretty productive meeting with Centerpoint last week. Met with them to discuss moving some gas lines over in Quaker's Landing, and feels like we've got a good open line of communication going with them so that we can get any of their infrastructure, learn of their infrastructure for any of these projects that you're going to be looking at doing here and now into the future. So,
Do you think that'll be fruitful, or Because I'm wanting to start shelving over there. Is there anything I can do to help motivate them to get them lines moved?
In general, in our, franchise agreement, if the city's asking for something to be moved, as long as it's a reasonable, expense to them, then, it should be moved at no cost. There might be, some instances where there may be some cost involved. So that's not, completely out of the realm, but I think, we'll be hearing from them here pretty soon, how feasible it is for them to do that.
Yeah, I'm not interested in burdening the city
Are those distribution or transmission lines?
distribution.
Distribution.
Hill on the Deepwood area. I know you sent me the utility maps and stuff, but I think there's gas there as well, right?
I was told there was, I can't confirm or deny, and the power's overhead, so we're good there.
Yeah, but for any kind of project, all that's gonna have to be,
No, I mean, taking back to the pole, that's not the
Yeah.
problem, but if there's gas,
but do we need to start working on that now? Because on October the 8th,
we're gonna start.
we'll take on full ownership of that property. And so I would like to maybe Scott, you and Hilton and I get together, come up with a plan where we can start gathering the information and start getting that scheduled to be removed, terminated.
Can we piggyback that hill? That one's not a moving, it's just cutting it back to the main.
Yeah.
Okay,
How about the power or gas?
gas,
Oh, yeah.
power's overhead, it's just gonna come back to the pole.
Yeah,
We can get,
All utilities.
That's city.
yeah.
I'm just talking power, gas.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Power and gas have the biggest lead time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know there's some water lines and stuff down there, but
That's not an issue.
yeah, that's dealing with Center Point in Texas and Mexico is the biggest ones.
We met yesterday. Did we get a benchmark on is it around the 20,000 to add to the master drainage plan? Do you still feel good with that number?
we'll get a good number for you guys.
Yeah, Samantha was gonna,
So I got Hill with master drainage plan. 2, 3, Deepwood. So I won't forget because I'm getting older. And then,
You got a video you can watch again.
thank you. You need anything out of us?
Sorry?
Do you need anything from us?
No, we're good.
Okay.
Just
Thank you for yesterday.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, echoing everyone's sentiments about yesterday, I thought that was a productive meeting and we look forward to, some productive things happening. So, regarding Westland Ranch, late last night, I got, some of the as-built drawings and documentation I was waiting on to accept a few more, portions. Magnolia Bayou, that piece that's going north-south. I'll be accepting that here within the next couple of days, considering I got that documentation. And then the residential section that's directly adjacent to that, I got that documentation yesterday as well. So that'll be accepted along with that piece of Muldoon that connects to McFarland. So that's 3 separate projects that should be closing out here within the next week or so.
Are they gonna put in the other 2 lanes or is that one of those later things?
Later.
Okay.
But eventually those other 2 lanes will be coming. But that's a big picture, the progress on Westland Ranch. I am, and you guys have probably seen some of the plats for the southern pieces. So my thoughts are they're moving forward with development there on the south end of the development as well.
Do you see that you would require any slope paving on Mad Creek anywhere other than just south of 517? I figure if we can get it done now, I don't have to do it later. I'm just looking at my pocketbook, to be quite honest with you. I'm being brutally honest.
I'll have to So I'll have to give that some thought to see what mechanism, at the end of the day, we want those slopes to be stabilized. Not pose any maintenance issues. I'll have to revisit our criteria to see if I've got any mechanism to say slope paving, is that?
We could work together.
Okay, all right.
What I foresee is you got 1,500 houses coming in over there. We're gonna increase volumes to those little areas. So that tells me there's gonna be some erosion. So it's gonna change the characters over there of the flows. It'll increase.
Yeah,
So I'm just trying to be proactive so I don't get, so we're sitting here and go, oh, we gotta take care of this. That's all I'm trying to say.
well, Scott's always good with copying us on comments of the plan.
Same.
We can work together on how we want to affect that. So,
You see where I'm looking at?
Yes. But you're saying that it just needs to be, if it's gonna, something be done, it needs to be stabilized and done before we start
absolutely.
ripping water. That's, yeah.
Okay, I'll also we get that 1 year walkthrough, so if, we go out there and inspect it during that 1 year and it's not right, then that gives us an opportunity to tell the developer and the contractor to rectify that. So that's part of the reason that's in the district's criteria and the city's criteria as well.
I would just encourage you to look at, the volumes are gonna change dramatically over there. Okay,
That's all I got.
thank you. Go ahead.
One thing from Matt. This goes without saying, but if you see any opportunity in the Dickinson watershed or any retention or whatever, talk to us about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Everything new over in Dickinson, we're building this up. It's all now. It's 14.
Yes.
All.
We good? Peggy?
Good morning. We had an IMAC meeting, that's the International Maritime Advisory Committee. It's a BAHAP meeting, and the Corps always has representation there, and the GCPD. So there are always in-depth discussions about the status of the Texas Coastal Study. I don't think there's anything necessarily new, but I will report on a Washington trip, which should fill in maybe some of the questions. Some representatives from GCPD as well as the executive director went to Washington this week. And this was a trip that was put together by the Greater Houston Partnership. And the purpose of the meeting was to meet with key officials, both at the White House level, at OMB, and at the congressional level. The main emphasis right now is to explore opportunities, and that's what was talked about with OMB, to get authorization to use some of the bipartisan infrastructure law. Those are funds that have already been appropriated. Within the core budget, there are over $1 billion that have not been expended. The thrust of the conversation is that we're asking OMB to support releasing some of those funds to where the Corps can begin to direct those towards the Texas Coastal Study. And what that will allow us to do is to begin to go into the next phase for the studies, which then we get further along into the discussions we need to have about the implications of the design. Remember, we're in the early design phase, so when you hear from individuals about the issues associated with the project, we're not nearly to the point to where we have any definitive data.
Maybe I have a question. Do those funds expire if the Corps doesn't use them by a certain deadline? Do they lose them?
If they do, I'm not aware of it. I can ask specifically. I will tell you the way because OMB is already putting the budget together for 25. And so as they were talking about what we're trying to do, because it's out of that 1 billion, they are really asking for just a couple of $100 million, just to get the Corps going in a direction. And the concern right now is that with the state having appropriated a couple $100 million for GCPD, part of our discussion with the state is this is really important for you, the state, to demonstrate your commitment to help us get the funds from the feds. So now the concern is if we're not able to get some monies during 2024 for the project, the state may begin to question whether they want to pull back their funds. So it's the typical funding domino game that goes on, but now we're at a point where we have identified a source of funds. It's a matter of trying to get the commitment to go forward. The Corps has all the data ready to support what they can do. So I think it's a matter of, it's the administrative process. Congressman Randy Weber is putting together yet another bipartisan letter to talk in terms of how this project meets not only the national need, but also the administration, because, there's a great push on the ecosystems, and certainly a great portion of this project is on the ecosystem. So between the story we have of the gray infrastructure and the supply chain, balancing with the administration's focus on ecosystem, we've got a compelling story. But I will tell you, it is brutal up there right now. I was in several meetings over the weekend and yesterday and this morning, and it's really tough. It is really, really tough. But there has not been any question that's been asked by any of the officials, including OMB, that our folks have not been able to answer. So it's not for lack of us having the backup information. It's just we're in this quagmire of chaos that's going on. However, the Republicans continue to meet over the weekend. There are deals being cut as we speak. The word I understand is that by Wednesday, because we will be in serious countdown by that time, things are going to begin to be discussed at a more focused level than right now. But there's a lot going on. But nevertheless, the bipartisan infrastructure law is the mechanism we see to get some federal funds to move us forward. A couple of weeks ago, I sent you all, including Joseph, a flyer about a BAHAP panel tomorrow afternoon. It will be on the Texas Coastal Study. There will be a presentation by the Corps, and then we will have another panel with the executive director of GCPD, GLO, to talk about what each organization is doing. I would say there's so much information out there. There are so many moving targets. When there are opportunities for people who want to stay informed but can't do it on a daily basis, if you can attend something like this will be the opportunity to give you a great overview. The Corps will be there. Ian O'Sullivan will be making a great presentation. I've heard it several times, very worthwhile. It makes it very clear the Corps' responsibility in this, but also the restrictions they have on advocating for the project or requesting funding on the Hill individually. So great opportunity. I hope to see some of you there tomorrow.
Is there a way to listen virtually if we can't attend in
No,
person now?
No.
Okay.
Would you refresh our memory where and when?
Sure. As a matter of fact, I will so refresh it, but I will resend you the flyer. But just overall, it's 4 to 5:30 tomorrow at Lakewood. And it is sponsored by BAHAP. They are asking for registration. I suspect if you show up and you haven't registered, they probably won't turn you away. But based on what I'm hearing, we're going to have a very large crowd. So I
can't make it.
Okay. You want me to be your representative?
Please.
I can do that.
Thank you.
Okay. But I will resend you the flyer. If you have any questions at all, please ask me. the ability that, that I can, to take really good notes and get handouts and provide that information to you if you're not able to attend, but I'd really like to.
I'll try to make
be
it.
there. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
RSVP.
Like,
Lakewood Yacht Club,
Yes, sir.
it's on, Nassau Road 1.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. And then in closing, as most of you probably know, I'm a director at Welby Financial. We're a $2.5 billion credit union, financial organization. Saturday at our Bay Colony branch, we are having Gene Kranz. He will, from 11 o'clock to 1, do a book signing on his book. So those of you who know Gene or have not had an opportunity to meet him, I think the name of this book is So Gene Kranz. I think it's like Tough and Competent. That's close to what it is. That may be exactly what the title is. And so we'll have him there for a couple of hours. You don't have to be a member of our organization to stop by and tell us hello. And we'd love to invite you and have you there. And I'm sure Gene would appreciate it.
The Bay Colony branch.
646, yes. Teresa, any questions at all? Send me a note. She answers. And that concludes my report, sir.
Thank you, Peggy.
You're welcome.
Any questions? All righty. Board of Directors, Teresa,
I have nothing today.
Mr. Gibson.
FM 1959 project. Harris Flood was scheduled to have the package ready to go out for bid sometime in October. And we're not real sure that's going to happen. It seems like it's a huge organization. Everybody's got the same title and they sit there and look at everybody about who's going to jump next. But anyway, we're working as hard as we can and putting as much pressure on them as we can to make that go ahead and happen. It's unfortunate, but now we know why we do projects on our own. That's it.
Mr. Burkett?
Yeah, Matt, I mean, many of y'all know I'm a pilot, so I'm not a drone pilot like Scott, but when I come in, I continue to watch that southern part of our district down there that y'all, that we talked about. So I am taking a lot of interest in that. What Jim said about sending water towards the Dickinson Bayou watershed, you know, they're always concerned, really concerned about that in our district. So I appreciate you working with us on that and addressing some of these issues and increased flow that's going to happen that way. It's looking good. It's just the Castlewood ponds are looking nice. I think Joseph, you took Lonnie and Teresa out there to look at that and some other things. So it's looking nice. Just up behind Kroger's looking great, as y'all saw. So I appreciate that, Joseph. Last thing is I saw Joe up here yesterday mowing the drainage easement in front of the office here. So I'm just kidding. I said, is that an easement? But anyway, thanks to our workers, all of them, Daryl, Joe, all those guys for doing the little things like that. Push mowing, he was getting after it. It was hot. Yep. So I appreciate the guys around the district for doing the little things that make this place go. Captain Joseph, all day, everybody else, Scott, and taking our calls and dealing with us. Thank you.
Mr. Moffett?
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of comments from people I know, friends and neighbors about particularly the project over behind the Baptist church. Everybody's really complimentary of the way that's looking. I think it's really going to be a big benefit for our community. Let everybody know that kind of a good job is going on.
Did it? Yeah, thank you. Had to take a deep breath there. Bill? What is our date to complete the master drainage plan that we're partnering on?
So that's going to be dependent on a couple of things, mostly on what FEMA's feedback is going to be.
Rough estimate? Another 9 months?
It could take anywhere from 9 months. It could take a year. Samantha and I are going to have a meeting with FEMA here in a couple of weeks, and specifically to discuss the changes between the time that we made the application for the grant and the fact that we have a interlocal. And we want to make sure that they're comfortable with how we structured everything, so that we don't get down the line and then they surprise us with something, which is the tendency for.
Initially, we didn't have the grant, and then once we did the interlocal, they got grant money, so that changed it, but here's how I work. I set estimated times of completion, so I know when to follow things up. I suspense them, so I'm gonna say September 2024. It's not about pressure, it's about me following up. Okay?
Yeah. And we'll update you guys as we go along as well.
Thank you. Once again, thanks for that meeting yesterday. Thanks for helping us with Centerpoint on Quaker's Landing and on the Deepwood project. Ladies and gentlemen on the board, don't forget to fill out your logs, and I still see my August one here and my September one. August, September. I don't know what you do with them, but.
Well, I usually go up and down and collect them.
Red's yours. You can just put an A on mine. Do it nice and red. We got some signatures in there. Feel free to go sign. And the DCM estimated to be complete December 2023. All I got. I'd like to call the meeting to order in the executive session. The board of directors will convene into closed meeting pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.072 discussion regarding real property. Gibson. That's something I want to give him, and I gotta give him.
I started.
Let me just send you a copy of the.
Yeah.
What? Resolution, yes, so she gets it signed.